Hey Brian, how are you doing?
Not too bad today, thanks.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, which organization you're representing?
Yes, I'm Brian Paddock. I'm an attorney, and I'm the legal chair for the Tennessee chapter of the Sierra Club.
What brought you out here to Oak Ridge today?
Well, what I've just been to is what they call an open house, and then a meeting of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission staff, where they were going to explain to people how they're going to handle it when TVA asks for an early approval of a site for a small modular reactor. And TVA has told NRC that they want to build a small modular reactor at some time in the future on a certain piece of land right next to the Clinch River, and to do that, to have that as an available site for a reactor, NRC has to approve this site. So they were explaining the process today of how they would look at that application. They might ask for additional information, and when the public would have a chance to comment on it. The other thing that they told us was that there'll be an environmental impact statement, and that'll have its own process which allows the public to comment. So I'm looking forward to a couple of years here of having a lot of fun teasing TVA and the NRC.
Now, TVA has stated to us they don't really need the power. Now, I remember Don Safer bringing that up in there. So, what do you think about this aspect and going ahead with this particular small modular reactors? And they're even TVA said they don't need the power. What's your take on this?
Well, this seems to be a political decision by TVA. They are a federal agency, and the Department of Energy has offered them federal tax dollars to help pay the cost of getting this site reviewed and approved. It's offered another company, a private company, money to develop a design for a small modular reactor that nobody's seen yet. And so basically you've got the federal taxpayer and the TVA ratepayers paying for sort of a science experiment that I think is going to turn out to be a waste of money and a waste of time. TVA has said that they don't need any more electrical power for the foreseeable future in an integrated resource plan, which they took a year to develop, and you can see it on their website, hundreds of pages of information about what their situation is. Since that time, TVA has told us that even the small demand increase they were projecting in the IRP hasn't materialized. People and businesses are doing so much energy efficiency that demand is flat, and in some cases negative. And so TVA really doesn't need any more power. And so what the proposal here is going to be probably is that they sell this energy to the federal government, to the various activities that the Department of Energy finances at Oak Ridge here, and they pay half again as much as they would if they just bought regular old electricity that TVA generates from other sources. So the taxpayer is going to get stuck forever with buying overpriced electricity from a source if it ever gets built. My personal feeling is that SMRs you're never going to see them actually come into existence, and that all this toing and froing to try to get something off the ground is a last-minute attempt to breathe life into the nuclear industry, because the industry is actually closing down reactors because they're uneconomical. You can produce electricity from natural gas and other things, including wind, much cheaper than you can from nuclear, and with much smaller investment and a much reduced lead time. If you really need more, it's quicker to build some wind generation and some grid connections and bring that electricity to where it's needed at much less expense and much more quickly than you can ever build a nuclear plant.
Well, thanks, Brian. I thought it's interesting that there's a little bit of talk about the emergency planning zone, and of course, as they're talking about the plans of this, it's not just one unit; it's multiple units tied in together. Of course, that's going to change, even though the NRC did mention that they have reactors that have a smaller planting zones than the 10 and I guess 50-mile area. But I just don't, I have a problem with reducing the planting zones. What do you think about that? Reducing the planting zones down to basically just 2 miles, that seems, man, it doesn't give enough reaction time, it would seem to me.
It's very concerning that an emergency planning area would be reduced that much. Having a nuclear reactor that could either melt down or go critical right next to a city, and by the way, this city probably has more PhDs per square foot than any place in the country. You could lose an awful lot of brain power awfully quick if something went wrong. So it is a big problem, and there's no reason to believe that a small reactor of 50 to 300 megawatts in fact will do less damage if it releases radioactive plume or if it should go critical or melt down. That's not the nuclear weapons used on Hiroshima were much smaller than the amount of energy that could be released by a malfunctioning reactor anywhere in the United States, including one of these small ones that are still on the drawing boards, as it were. So to think that you can just shrink down the area affected and where people need to know what's there and need to be able to get out quickly and have plenty of warning is a pipe dream, and it's really a real menace to public confidence and public health. And the NRC should reject the idea that the safety zones and the evacuation zones and the safety planning should be any bit different for a small reactor than they are for a large reactor.
Thank you, Brian. Anything else you want to add before we close?
I think we'll be back here for months and years as this carries on, and the main thing, they'll be spending our money to do it. I'm a TVA ratepayer.
Yeah.
I buy their
we all
electricity. Actually, TVA pays me because I have all solar, and my house doesn't have an electric bill anymore because the sunshine gives me free energy.
Cool.
But that's the only reactor that I really need, which is the one that's 93 million miles away.
That's right. Thank you, Brian. This is Gary Morgan here with Rachel Stewart and ArcLight.blogspot here at Oak Ridge, talking about the small modular reactor.